All right, it is 17 minutes gone past five, and you are tuned into the marketplace on Smooth 98.1. Time to talk about how it is. Our power situation gets, some fluctuations here and there, and so much more. But today, as much as we want to talk about how the grid keeps keeping, I don't know if he's keeping his rope or something, but we will be talking about the vandalism that's been happening to the transmission lines and so on and so forth. And joining me in having this conversation this beautiful Monday evening is Engineer Akin Laguda. He is a senior project manager at Egbin Power Station. Good to have you with me once again this evening.
Yeah, good to be here again. It's good to have a chat with you.
Always interesting. Lagos, you as well can come through and share your thoughts. If you have questions as well that you want to find out, because I know sometimes when you just hear about past situation, you're like, huh, when are we ever gonna get out of this? But hey, let's not jump the gun. Let's get into it. How about to be a part of Marketplace this evening? You can share your thoughts with me on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 4440 981. That is 0809 4440 981. And yes, you can go to YouTube and share your thoughts as well, or if you're trying to catch it, we are youtube.com// smooth 981 FM Lagos. Yes, smooth 981 FM Lagos. And yes, you know what? The first thing on my mind really is what exactly is happening with this whole situation with the latest act of vandalism, and how is this even impacting Nigeria's electricity transmission? Because I've yes, I came across the report, but you know what? I'll let you speak to it because you are into power in itself. So yes, help
Okay,
us
okay. You
make
could say we're
sense
into
of it.
power, but like like
Mhm.
like you're well aware, there are several entities and people involved in this,
We know
professionals
that.
and
Mhm.
policymakers, and it's a very 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 interesting and very complex environment. But
Right.
we can simplify things for one another so we can have a basic understanding. The reality is, we
Okay.
all know what vandalism does. We know when we're
Yes.
suffering this in other sectors like the oil and gas, we know the issues that were there, and we know
Hmm.
how it was such a big deal for the government. But more
Right. Right.
importantly, when we come to power, we feel it more. You might not see oil pipeline in your environment, except in the Niger Delta, but
Okay.
the power line should be somewhere can collapse the entire grid. And
Right.
that's usually why we feel it more, and you are more aware that this is happening. So vandalism in itself, it's not new. Sad as it may
Sure.
sound, it's not new.
Sure.
And there are many other things that we could attribute to it. But when it comes to power, um,
Hmm.
it's becoming more brazen, if I could use that word. It's People are
Right.
getting bolder, people are taking more risks, and I find it hard to believe because we are only it's self injurious because we are also still going to pay for it. All of us are going to pay for it. If
One way
one
or the
person,
other.
yeah, one way or the other, we're going to pay for it. So someone goes and finds out that something is working fine and decides for his own benefit
Okay.
it's better it's not working fine. Then he might get a short term benefit, but he will still pay in the long term, just like everyone else. So it's just embarrassing to think that any right thinking human being, any sane human being, will want to
Right.
vandalize public um, public assets, and it's difficult to understand. Okay, so in the past, you will hear transformers being vandalized. You will hear
Right. Yes, I've had that several
electric
times.
power lines being vandalized, distribution lines being vandalized. Now they're tackling
Right.
transmission lines. You've heard of maybe uh, 32 kVA lines before, but now they're going as high as 330 kVA lines. And the methods are well, I don't have evidence to tell you exactly how it was done, but
Right.
what I'm hearing, it's going towards violence. It's not just petty criminals. It's going towards armed groups and people that have access to, um, um, I say, sophisticated equipment. So it's not a passing fad. It's not just hunger. Some
All
people
right.
are, seemingly trying to sabotage the little gains that may be in.
Okay, so here's me thinking, right? Because you just raised something very important. It isn't something that you just um it's not something that anybody can just go, okay, I'm a regular electrician. I could just go snip, snip here, snip, snip, snip there, and take the wires or whatever it is I
Mm.
need to get out of the way. It actually takes someone who knows his
Understand?
onions
Yes,
to be able
I
to
understand of the
understand
system.
because, yeah, so it means it's self-sabotage. It is someone within
Mm.
the system that understands how this can actually affect the community, affect everyone that is going through this.
Mm.
And it still begs the question, how come we're not, is there any better way we can actually just protect it as opposed to just, oh, okay, we have it in one thick forest because I heard that sometimes that's where it is. Take it all the way
Mhm.
away from everyone around you. So you put it somewhere very far off, uh, put it in some cage. I've seen some of them anyways. But but
It's a
for me,
fancy
is it
idea. It's a thought, but
yeah. So
it's probably not the best option.
okay.
So I would come in here and say the first thing we need to do a root cause analysis. Why exactly do people find it convenient or easy or profitable or desirable to vandalize public property? That's where we should start from. When you want to solve a problem,
Right.
you have to go to the root cause. The root
Mm,
causes are insecurity. The root causes are, you know, we mentioned poverty,
mm,
but it's not just poverty. Some people lack understanding, lack of education. We always mention
mm,
education because if you are right thinking, if you are educated to a minimum level where you understand
mhm.
cause and effect, impact
Right.
of actions, you will not do
You will
some
not.
things. It's just no longer an option on the table for you, no matter how bad things are. And this is not the first one. Like I mentioned, it's happened in the Northeast, in Borno State. There are several of these things
Hmm.
before. It is probably to disrupt security agencies' plans and their activities to curb security and things like that. And when you start going after major assets like this, you have to now understand how do we
That
do
there's
it. Of course, the government already
right.
has plans in place. We
Hmm.
have agencies of government that are responsible for some of these things. I'm particularly aware that the NSCDC, Civil Defense
Mm,
Agency, is particularly responsible for infrastructure, government infrastructure across the country. So they
right.
are also players, and of course, everybody in the security architecture of the country is responsible, and we ourselves as Nigerians is responsible. If someone in your
Mm.
neighborhood is damaging public property, you will suffer. You will pay. The person may pay and gain some, maybe gain in the short term, but we all lose in the long term. So you have a part to play. So it's not just one thing. We need to find the root causes and deal with poverty, deal with insecurity, deal with lack of basic education and the likes before we can start talking about reducing or ending vandalization of public property.
Okay, so I have some questions already from listeners. Wilson, first of all, he wants to know what could be the motives of the vandal, seeing that he's also asking the same question like I asked. What are they after? What exactly is the
Mm,
reason why they are trying to get this, cables?
mm,
What's the idea behind that? Then he's also asking how can that also be checkmated because
right.
there is a reason why people keep going back to this transmission, uh, where they are situated to keep
Mhm.
poking at it. It
Mm,
cannot just be that if it was just a one-time thing, okay, that's understandable. Maybe the
yeah.
person just tried the first time. Well, it seems like we're having a reoccurrence, and yeah, it's affecting everyone at large, if we're being
True.
honest.
True. So if I would, your guess is as good as mine. That's the honest truth. I'm not in the mind of this person's, and
I
I
know,
don't have any
right?
security intel or investigation
Right.
reports at the moment. The reality is we all know everything has a cost. Every item, every material has a cost, and it's not
Right.
just in our sector. At least I know many of us are aware of the recently commissioned second Niger Bridge. That was a
Right.
story about people already removing
The
components, metal gratings, railings, and stuff
Oh
from the
my
bridge that was
goodness.
commissioned just
I
maybe just
know.
over a year ago. Of course, we know that some of this material, and when you're talking about electrical systems, we are going to be
Right.
using high grade metals. Talking about
Mm-hmm.
aluminum, we're talking about copper. These
Right.
are the preferred. There are the others that work, but these are
But
preferred,
the
and
preferred ones.
they
Mm-hmm.
are commonly used items. People work them into making spoons and forks and to have your parties and
Mm.
stuff. So and they're sold. They're sold for
That's
so
the
people
question
do
I
those
even
things.
have to ask.
It's for it's for commercial reasons, for very short-sighted, pedestrian commercial reasons. I would say, but in the larger thing, if I think about the conspiracy or one or
Mm-hmm.
two person, because at the level it's getting to now, you beg the question: are there other motives beyond just commercial? So
Right.
uh, there's the scale at which it's being carried out now. You could start asking deeper questions from our security agencies who are
Because you can't
industry
you can't say that
professionals.
you're not aware about this thing. You're supposed to be
Yes, we're,
protecting
we're
them.
not unaware, but I don't have evidence, so I cannot tell you what I cannot
Speak to what?
substantiate. Yes, I
Mm,
cannot say what I cannot substantiate. It's
fair
not
enough.
ethical. You could have conjecture, you could have evidence,
Mm-hmm.
information, but you may not. As long as you cannot substantiate and defend the position you're taking, it's not the right thing to do, especially in a public forum like this. So I would say that the challenge here is for us to understand where we are as a country. And many things
Mm-hmm.
come together. Insecurity plays a part,
True.
poverty plays a part, a huge part. That
Mm,
would speak to motive. That would speak
okay.
to motive.
Okay. So Ikedia here from Ikeja says, he's saying that is as a result that rainy season is out of the way or almost out of the way because it still rained a few nights ago, and he says now is time for sun and more sun. So he's saying that what exactly will power the turbines if we don't have all these cables?
Okay. The turbines don't
Mm,
function. That's a very good question. Thank you very much for that. The turbines don't function with cables. Cables are just a means of transmitting the power that has been generated by turbines, whether they are turbines in your hydropower stations or your
okay.
thermal stations. Turbines actually are mechanical equipment that generate. They are basically let me use a simple way to describe it, like your fan in
Oh,
the
okay.
house,
Right.
your standing fan. That's
Mm-hmm.
as simple a way I could describe a turbine. So just the same way it blows you cool breeze, if you also blow into it with your mouth, if your lungs are strong enough, you can make it move. So it's the same way you use water to make it move very fast in the
Right.
hydro
Right.
station to generate, and
Mm-hmm.
that motion is converted, using a generator to convert it to electricity. And when you talk about thermal stations, is when we burn gas or create steam in a gas turbine or a steam turbine to be to move it as a simple term to move it, and that movement is being converted to electricity in a turbine. No, I'm getting a bit technical. I don't want to digress too much, but the turbine
Let's
has
not
nothing to do
digress
with
too much.
the
Yeah, so
turbine has
it has nothing
nothing
to
to
do with
do
the
with it. Yes,
part.
but
Oh,
when
okay.
talking about this weather changing, yes, we
Right.
are going into what we professionals call the thermal season. Thermal season is
Mm.
when you have less rainfall. Less rainfall
And
only
more
means that
sun.
your hydro stations will generate less electricity, and you have your
Mm-hmm.
steam turbines and gas turbine generators doing most of
To
the work
power.
during that period. Yeah, of course we have
Mm.
renewables as well. So I guess that's a good thing for solar. So when there's more
I know,
sun, your
right?
solar panel will do more job, and it's about balance, and that's what all things
Right.
that we need to learn. There's so many sources and so many technologies involved in creating and supplying energy to your home.
See, I want to talk about the sources and how it is we're not tapping into it enough. But you know what? That would be me digressing. Let's
Yeah.
come back to something that Gabriel here wants to speak to, and that has to do with the power grid that keeps collapsing like a boyfriend and girlfriend just
Wow.
telling themselves, I'm not doing today, I'm not doing tomorrow, all that back and forth, and say, you know what, today is your space, tomorrow is my space.
Okay.
It just seems like that back and forth that we keep having. What
Mhm.
exactly is the situation to that? I know that some people will say, and I might just be wrong, but serious countries have figured out how to sort out their past situation so
Mhm.
they're not back
Mhm.
where we are having this
Right.
back and forth every other time. we
Mhm.
you just blink anytime you just know that there's a power outage, next thing you're saying, oh, it has collapsed again.
Okay, so
That's
not
the
every
thing. Before
outage
it used
is
to
a
be
collapse. Yeah.
okay, okay,
Not
so
every outage is a
please
collapse.
enlighten
And
us.
sometimes it might just be a partial collapse. It might not be a complete collapse of the country. So
Okay.
it's not as bad as many people think. Once we lose power and here is a collapse, it sounds worse than it actually is. But to be honest, it is bad. We shouldn't be
It
having
is
collapse.
bad.
There
We
are other
shouldn't, because
countries
if it
and
was a
other
human
clients.
body now, we know what we'll be
Yeah.
saying.
It's like you're fainting every now and again. It's just like it's not
you
healthy. Yes, it
know, no.
says something is wrong, and I can speak to that to an extent. What is wrong is something you also experience sometimes. If you have a generator,
Right.
you experience it from time to time.
Okay.
In your home, when you switch on the generator, you have appliances, your fridge, your freezer, your TV, and stuff you switch on. When you have too little load, meaning if you have very few
Equipment in your
equipment or appliances
appliances.
on,
Yeah.
yes, you have high voltage, you have the generator making a lot of noise, it's not
Yeah,
efficient, it's
it's
not
always
working well,
high.
there's very high
Yeah.
current, which I actually blow up some bulbs and stuff. So you need to
Yes.
add load to it.
To balance
But
it out.
because the generator in your house, you can't control how much power comes out. It has an
Is
AVR,
certain.
well, getting
Mm-hmm.
technical, yes, it has a way of regulating itself. But
Yeah.
within the range that is its power, no, you have your KVA's ratings for your generators. So when you add too much load, which is what happens most times, when you have
Okay.
too much load because the guys at the transmission end are doing a yeoman's job balancing that, and then this is constant. This is their job on a daily basis. Every
Okay.
switch you flick in your house, every
Hmm.
appliance you switch on in your house
Right.
adds load on the
Mm.
national grid. So they're making sure that everybody that's switched on or has access to switch on power per time is not more than the capacity that's being generated and supplied to the grid at that time. So there has to be a
Okay.
balance. So every time there's an imbalance, we usually measure that in
That's
frequency.
only.
Once there's an imbalance, there's a risk of collapse. But it's not every time that happens. Sometimes it's vandalization, like we've said. Sometimes
Mm.
it's maybe an act of God, maybe a weather situation. It could be a
Oh no.
storm,
I don't
yes,
want to
that
even get
damages
into
an
that one.
equipment.
Yes. Mm.
It could be a storm that damages equipment.
Right.
A
Right.
tree could fall somewhere in the bush and it's
True.
collapsing on the power line. Some people's job, they do that regularly to prevent those things. But you can't stop them all. You do your best. But in
Yeah.
those countries where they are better, the main reason you don't notice is that they have a lot of supply. We are limited in
Mm.
supply. They have a lot of supply. They often have more supply than they need. So when you
So
have more
can we
power
speak?
on the grid
Yes. Okay.
than you
Go ahead.
need,
Go ahead.
the chance of collapse is much less. Your generator will switch
Okay.
off when you have more power. It might damage something. It might be too high. Frequency might be very high, not high, but it's not going to damage. So, but once you put too much load, it can shut off because it's gone past its capacity.
Yeah.
There's an imbalance. So that's what we experience on the national grid sometimes. But of course, like I said, there are other things like vandalism and stuff that can cause this collapse. But yes, we need to get to a space where we're more stable, where we have more
Right.
generation, and our load is within our ability
That
to
capacity to
generate.
manage. Okay,
Yes,
so now
correct.
talking about that, trying to manage everything, is there a do, I'm just going to put it out there. Can we just is there a possibility where we can phase out this aging infrastructure that we have and have something more modern so that we're having stability when it comes to power, especially with the
Mhm.
national grid?
Mhm.
Because some people have said that that's outdated. So maybe that's why we're having the collapses more often than not. I don't know.
Okay, so technology is quite interesting. The beauty of
Okay.
technology is that even when it's old, it still works. Even when it's an older
Okay.
technology, it still works as long as it's managed the way it's supposed to be managed.
Okay.
We have countries that have power plants that are over 100 years old. I don't think we
Hmm.
have many of those here, but they have those abroad that
Hopefully
still
not.
function. You know,
Mm.
they still do. So it
Okay.
just might not be what they're depending on, and that's the difference. So we
Okay.
have a situation where some of our equipment are old, but there's constant improvement. You have to have a mindset of adding, of gradually improving. You can't.
Okay.
It's not like a car. You just say, "Oh, this car is giving me trouble." Just
And just
ship it
it's
off and
gone.
buy another one. It doesn't
Right.
work that way. This is you don't even if you are ever in the room where the realities have been discussed, you will be
Right.
worried that it's ever possible. But the thing is, it is,
Okay.
and it's a gradual improvement,
Okay.
modifications, in additions, and continuous, sustainable improvement to the
Mm.
system. So it's not about wholesale change of the system. It's about modifying it
Mm.
to adapt to our new realities or our new demands.
Yeah.
So it doesn't can't just say it's old and you throw it out.
So
They're
it's not
long term, they're
it's
long
not
term, yeah.
old and just throw it away. So you can actually
Yeah,
work your way around it and make sure that it's
correct.
still active somewhere.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
but with that rate, really, I want to find out how it is that we can make sense of it, especially where um with some homes that aren't metered. Could that also be another situation as to why we're having this imbalance when it comes to the power situation?
You talk about metering now.
Yes.
Homes not being metered, how it affects the grid. Is that can you please
Yes,
explain the
that's what
question
I'm.
again?
Okay, so
Okay, great.
you, it's that's basically what it is. I know that some people have attributed the lack of metering, proper metering, because you have a lot of people who are unmetered. So they naturally just we don't have a prepaid meter, so we can as well just turn everything on, turn our freezers,
Right.
everything, and go out and come
Mhm,
back and know that the
mhm.
house is chill. As
That's,
opposed to
that's
those who know that, oh, okay,
there's a bill
you,
to pay at the
my
end of the
unit,
month.
my unit is gonna go off if I
So
do this. So
metering
can that also
metering
be a problem?
yes, it can be. Yeah, but we think that one person's home is going to cause a problem. Not true. Um,
Okay.
there's so much. In terms of relativity, the commercial users, your factories use more power than individuals, so they would
Mm,
have an impact than home. How many equipment do you have in your home really? You probably have your freezer, your TV, and a couple of
mm,
ACs on per time. And the reality is it's very little that it is. But by the time you aggregate everything together, it becomes a
mm,
problem. So talking about metering on its own, not
mm.
having meters is a problem. It's a crime. That's energy theft. Not having a meter is a crime. It should be well stated. It should be emphasized. If you are not
Okay.
metered and you're using energy, it's wrong.
Hmm.
Except you're generating your own energy.
But
And
could
bypassing
that be
meters,
attributed
tampering
to?
with meters is
Is it
wrong. It's a
okay?
crime. So it's
Huh.
a crime. Those are
Okay.
things that should
But
not be done.
is
And
that
when people
attributed
do
to
that,
me, who is a user? Because if I have applied and I still haven't gotten one, how is that my fault? I'm just
okay,
asking.
now you're dealing with customer service issues with your distribution.
Okay.
So if you've applied and you've not been metered, of course, you probably
Mm-hmm.
be getting an estimated bill. And because you are a
Obviously.
registered user, you are
Mm,
how I put it, acknowledged, actually, you are well documented as a
right.
user on the grid. So you don't really have a problem. You'll just be
Mm,
having to deal with estimated billing, which I don't like. I don't think anybody is comfortable with that. And that would be the main challenge you have. You're probably being billed more than you use, or you probably are not well billed, or you're using more than you are billed for. So it's a
right.
plus or minus at that point. And it doesn't exactly affect the larger sense, but in terms of commercial, when the distribution
Mm,
companies don't collect for people that stealing energy without paying. When they're unable to
Okay.
collect, they're unable to pay for the energy that they have taken from the grid. And
All
when
right.
the grid is unable to pay for the generation, the companies that are generating this power also have issues, maintaining and keeping this equipment that are generating the power on.
Mm,
It's a chain, it's a value chain. So when you don't pay, you are
mm.
making the system less effective, less
Okay.
efficient.
Okay. So if you are not metered, just know this, that you are not doing yourself a good service. You need to speak to whoever, whatever transmission company you are, uh, you know, assigned to, so that they can get you your meters, and then that way you are justified by saying, okay, hands in the air. I've done my own bit. It's now up to you to do the needful. So I'm not also contributing to the collapse of the grid. Just needed to put that out there. So, but really, how do we solve this situation of power in Nigeria? Is there a guidebook that we can use? Is there something that we need to do
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
have it being put proper, so we can have peace of mind and go to sleep, not having to worry that, okay, and maybe I know some people are already saying they have 20 hours. Is it something we can now have
Yeah.
celebrate a month everywhere? I'm saying a
Mm-hmm.
month before we now start going to 3 months, before we now start going to 6 months, and there before we get to a year and celebrate 1 year without having to blink.
Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. And up to let me say,
You're
I
you're
believe we will get
optimistic.
there. I'm
Okay.
optimistic we'll get there, but there's a lot of
Okay.
work to do to get there. It's a
Okay.
lot of work and commitment from all parties.
Okay.
Um, we all have a part to play. We're all stakeholders. But when I'm talking about it in terms of what we need to do right now in the short
Mm-hmm.
term, it's
Right.
us not vandalizing. It starts from there. Don't make it less than it actually is right now. It's low, but don't
Right.
make it less.
Mm.
By vandalizing. You shouldn't vandalize. And then when you were talking about adding more, providing more energy for us to be able to use, and that would start to improve it in terms of generation, in terms of transmission, of course. We talk about
Mm.
these damages that don't need to be repaired, and more distribution capacity needs to be added in terms of more pylons, networks, more efficient connections across the country, and of course, better grid management, and then even in distribution, better connectivity to your neighborhoods, regular maintenance. There's so many things that comes to play, and everybody needs to play their part. The challenge is that many of us have not been playing our part and expect somebody else to play their part, and
Huh?
we're all looking at each other
Okay.
like, okay,
So,
play your part and play my part.
hmm.
So it starts from the basics. That must be now we're deregulated, so to speak. We are having unbundled system, and
Right.
it's not governments are responsible for everything. We play a
Mm.
part. If you don't pay, the system doesn't work.
Okay. And I'm going before I finally wrap things up, because I know that certain people have. Well, Fred says, could it be attributed to the demand of Band A customers or consumers? Maybe the disco. He says maybe the discos chewed more than they could chew. They didn't see that one coming. However, Gabriel is saying that, can we ask assistance from the Chinese, since they know a thing or two on how power they've been running their power for a long time? Can we ask them to come see how they can put some Midas touch into our power sector?
Well, I don't know about the Midas touch. I think that's more of a Greek thing. But
Okay.
there are solutions everywhere, and it's not just China. It's not just the Germany that we talk about, Siemens and all the likes. Many
I know,
countries have
right?
done
I
it.
didn't even
Even
want to touch
Egypt.
that one.
Yes,
Mm.
even Egypt recently improved its power supply
Right.
capacity just if late last year or so, and it's happening everywhere. We just need to be committed and deliberate about the actions that we're taking, and not taking ourselves take one step forward and a
10
few steps
steps back.
back.
Mm.
Recently, the policies that the minister has been, the decisions he's been making are altogether positive. It's not going to
Okay.
solve the problem in one day, but it's pushing us in the right
Right.
direction, inching us forward, as much as they can. And then it's amazing to realize that in the long term, we could get there if we all did more. But when we start
Mhm.
having issues like vandalism, it just
Vandalism
puts
every other time.
it just dampens
Mm.
everyone.
Enthusiasm to even, put
Yeah,
things,
exactly.
get,
So, but when you
ugh.
talk about band A customers, I think Fred asked a question, or was it Gabriel?
Yes,
Band A
Fred.
customers, just know this: they have more power now because they are paying cost reflective tariff
You
or
don't want
more.
to know. Fred,
Yes,
I
you don't
tell
want to
you,
know.
you don't want to
If you
know.
know the cost, and I'm sure Joy can explain, if you know the cost that it takes to put
Yeah.
power in the grid, you would appreciate. It's just the same reason why it's convenient for you. Why are people complaining? Because they can't fuel their generators right now. They can't. You know how much it costs to set up a solar panel for yourself in your costs a lot of money. So you can imagine multiplying that into the thousands and the millions. What it costs to set
It's
up
into
for
the millions
everyone.
right now.
In trillions, if not.
Okay.
And it takes a
Before
lot to put that together.
No, but you know what? I just want to chip this in before I let you go because yeah, we're
Right.
almost out of time. I know in the
Great.
UK, right, what the government has done, they've subsidized it in such a way they put some. So it's a partnership. The
Mm-hmm.
panels on homes, and they've done it in such a way that the home users are also paying a little. They're subsidizing it so that they're paying little by little, as opposed to just putting all that cost on you and knowing that okay, so at some point you as well can have power. We're also trying to manage. Is that something that the government can also look into? So we have so much power up north. All my days, well, I schooled up north, so I know what I'm talking about. So how come we're not
Mm-hmm.
taking advantage of this? You have places where you have so much water. Take advantage of all the things that we have around and
Yeah.
reduce all
Yeah.
the
If
stress
it,
that we're having. You know what?
if it was that simple, I think it would have been done already.
Huh?
It's more complex than it sounds. So the reality is, oh well, from what we can see, um,
Right.
the systems that work abroad is tailored to those environments. Nigeria has enjoyed a lot of subsidy in terms of energy for many years,
Okay.
and it has gone to the point that it has been abused. We know about the subsidy scams in energy, and that has been abused. Even in power, we've had government subsidizing for a long time, and that's one of the reasons why it got very like say less efficient because
Okay.
people just take those things for granted. We don't pay. We're used to not paying. So now that we're being asked to pay because maybe government cannot foot those subsidy
Continue
bills
to foot
anymore,
the subsidy
yeah,
bill.
now we are
Mm.
feeling the pinch of what it actually cost. When you were
Mm.
talking about growing up north and having a lot of energy available,
Right.
Nigeria was much better. We all enjoyed better power at different times. When there are
Right.
improvements or addition done, and in those areas, if you mention the place, maybe I could help a bit to clarify. But in those areas, there were probably fewer industries and probably more
Mm.
just home users,
Right.
domestic
Right.
consumers, and there's a very
Domestically.
little
Hmm.
amount of power they require. But we're in an environment
Mm.
where we're industrializing, we are growing as a people, population is surging, the
Right.
demand is increasing. You're going to have to do a lot more to provide that level of service. And that is what we're struggling with because we've, for a long time, not planned and done what we need to do to continue to improve on what we have. Like I said, continuous
Right.
sustainable improvements, little by little, every year,
Mm.
every quarter, every 5 years, every administration adds to it. That's how we maintain and make it work. But once we've had breaks where we did not do what
Mm.
we're supposed to do, now we're suffering the pain. And we've always got used to being subsidized and paying nothing. And then when it's now bad, you want it to work. There's a lot more required to make it work. So it starts from us not vandalizing, and it starts from us paying our share and holding our public officers accountable. That's how we get to move forward in every area of this country.
Thank you so much for all the insights so far. And you know what? I wish we could just keep going on and on and on, but hey,
Always
we've
fun to talk to
gone
you.
way beyond the timing. Okay, so how can Lagos reach out to you if they have further questions on your social media handles?
That's fine. I'm on Twitter at Kuni Laguda. That's
Okey-doke.
KUNLELAGUDA.
Okay, thank you so much. I trust you have yourself a pleasant evening ahead of you.
You
And
too.
Lagos, Fred, I know you're on Bande and you're crying about how it is the experience you have. See, my heart goes out to all Band A users. Hopefully, we'll, get some respite soon. But that's where we draw a curtain